You are graduating actually at probably one of the most esteemed times in the world. The world today has become chaotic. It's been turned upside down. What's happened? Greed, misplaced priorities, were not sustainable. Meaning that businesses that have a goal of just turning a profit every year more and more, it just can't be done. What happened was people had to cheat. People had to invent stories. Murdoch, Ponzi scheme. Just taking money and turning it over and making people really believe that it was true. I have to tell you, when something doesn't seem like it's true, it's not. World countries have lost their placement of priorities. You are very fortunate. The gift that you've been given today, cherish it, appreciate it, because there are still students in this world who don't know what a computer is, who go to school barefooted, who go to school without a meal, and that going to class just for primary school is it for education. So you are a very small minority in the world, and you must bear that responsibility early and understand that what's expected of you is a lot more than everybody else. There's 3 books I really want to recommend to you as students that you read. The first one to appreciate what's taking place in the world today is a book that's called Who Moved the Cheese by Spencer Johnson. And the book is about 4 rats. One that's called Sniff, one that's called Scurry, one that's called Hem, and then one that's called, oh God, I can't remember. My apologies. But 2 of the rats are real rats, and the other 2 rats are human beings. And it's a story of them getting up every single morning and going to this place where the cheese is. And one day they get there and the cheese is gone. And the 2 rats that are normally rats leave in search of new cheese. The 2 human beings who are rats debate among themselves as to what's happened and continuously come back every day waiting for the cheese to be there. Eventually, one of them decides he's going to leave him and go in search of the cheese. And eventually, he finds the cheese and he finds the other 2 rats. You never know what life throws you. Always be prepared for change. Don't find yourself getting into the habit of just doing the same thing and expect it's always going to be the same. There's a great saying that we say, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing every day and expecting a different result. It doesn't work. The next book, I really suggest you read it, if you've not already, is Jonathan Livingston Seagull, written by Richard Cobb. It's the story of a seagull, if you don't know it, who tries to perfect the art of flying and becomes ostracized by other seagulls. But in seeking his passion, ends up discovering other seagulls that also have a passion for flying. And he goes to a new place. But he returns to his old place to now discover that more and more seagulls were looking and shared his passion. But if he had not listened to himself, if he had not been passionate about it, then the art of flying seagulls would have never been perfected. The last book I want to recommend to you is written by a Canadian author. It's called The Outliers, by a gentleman called Malcolm Gladwell. He's also the author of a book called The Turning Point and Blink. And in this book, he talks about what success is. And he proves that success has nothing to do with intelligence. Success has to be where an opportunist meets an opportunity. But it also is a person who has a passion for practice. For instance, talks about that 80% of the world hockey players are born in the years January and March. 80%. Why? Because in the system here in Canada, that the cutoff age for kids joining a hockey team is January 1st. So they tend to be, January and March, the oldest kids on the team. And from a very young age, the better players are selected. And who would not be better than the bigger kids, who are faster and stronger? And those kids were then given access to the all-star teams, better coaching, and eventually became better players. Now, was it the fact that they were better skilled, or was it the fact that they were given a better opportunity? Bill Gates from Apple, Steve Jobs from Microsoft, I forget the other man's name, from Sun Systems, all of them were born in the year 1955. And what's great is by the time they were 15 was when the PC computer was first invented. And they had an unreasonable amount of access to a computer. And they became very passionate about it. Bill Gates' high school, the mothers bought a computer. And he and Paul Allen were on that computer literally every single day. The school could not afford to buy the amount of time that the kids were using. So the company that was supplying the time for them came to meet with them, found these kids were passionate, and said, we'll deal with you. If you help us debug programs, we'll give you more time. So guess what? They became experts at programming by the age of 17. And all of a sudden, when people were now getting into computers and they needed people to write programs, the first place they went to were to these kids. Bill Gates was not brighter than anybody else. He happened to be at the right place at the right time, but he had a passion for practice.